A lot of people cook or make their meals using olive oil. However, there is a very specific reason why this bottle of olive oil is empty. That's pretty much the premise of this video today. Here is why I drink olive oil for my breakfast every day. Alright, so let's go back to where all of this started for me. And it really happened when I got this blood glucose test device starting at the new year. Now, when you have elevated levels of blood glucose, that triggers the release of insulin, which helps remove that sugar from your blood and store it. So if we think as blood glucose as present when you're having high carbohydrate meals, insulin is then present in order to lower those levels and store that glucose in either glycogen storages or fat cells. Training as a collegiate athlete for 5 years, almost every single one of my meals were high carbohydrate and high protein in order to try and restore depleted glycogen and build up as much muscle as possible. Now, while this worked great for that, as high amounts of protein intake stimulate mTOR pathway, which is involved with muscle protein synthesis, and high amounts of carbohydrate stimulate insulin released, which is a storing hormone. Both of these work together great to build up the muscle. However, I was constantly in an anabolic state. A lot of people look at anabolic states as the thing that they want to achieve and be in constantly. But as my goals now shift post-collegiate athletics, I'm more so looking for a balance between health span and lifespan. And I'm trying to balance my desire to maintain a certain amount of muscle mass and strength, also with the desire to stay healthy and live longer. In order to try and improve certain health markers that I like to track, my goal was to reduce the frequency at which I was overstimulating my insulin response and mTOR activation. Now, a way that a lot of individuals do this is through fasting periods. And I'm not unfamiliar at all with 1-day fasts and even up to 3-day fasting periods. However, trying to find a way that can fit a daily life routine, I naturally turn to trying to do things like intermittent fasting. I did do an intermittent fasting schedule for actually a number of weeks. However, I kept running into an issue where, due to my activity levels and the small window of time in which I was permitting myself to eat, I was not able to maintain my weight. And if you've watched any of my older videos, you'll know that whenever I struggle with maintaining or gaining weight, I typically turn to drinking olive oil as a quick solution. I believe that olive oil works good for my situation for a number of reasons. The first of which is that olive oil won't trigger the release of insulin. So insulin only gets released in the presence of carbohydrates or exercise. And so by drinking some olive oil for breakfast, I won't be triggering that storage hormone. Secondly, mTOR activation, which, like I mentioned before, is involved with muscle protein synthesis, is only involved in the presence of high protein meals, particularly in high leucine content meals. And so by drinking olive oil, I won't be stimulating either of these two cascade hormone mechanism effects. Secondly, olive oil is also very calorically dense, and so I'm able to get down a relatively large amount of calories with a limited amount of time or effort. Additionally, another thing that kind of freaks me out is the idea that ingestion does not equal absorption. And I like to take a lot of minerals in my supplements, and things such as fiber have been shown in research studies to bind to minerals, specifically like magnesium, zinc, and calcium. Not to mention that also zinc and vitamin C on an empty stomach give me terrible nausea, and so combining that with the olive oil works well, as there's no fiber and no nausea. I also take my fat-soluble vitamins during this time period as well. Olive oil really checks all of my boxes. I'm able to keep my caloric intake high enough so that I'm not losing weight. I avoid stimulating the processes that involve mTOR and insulin release.
And furthermore, I have a really nice time period where I can take some of my supplements and minerals without having to worry about competitive inhibition and not absorbing a high amount of what I'm ingesting. I am by no means a nutritionist or a dietitian, and so these are just things that tend to work for me based off of my own current knowledge and situation. This is more of a way of me sharing with you my thought process and problem-solving skills behind issues that I might create for myself. A lot of people like to take their supplements in the morning with breakfast, and they also like to eat a lot of whole grain, high fiber foods as a part of their breakfast. And so if you fall into that category, you might also want to do some research on your own about the specific minerals and supplements you're taking and check out competitive inhibition or circumstances in which you might not be absorbing what you're ingesting. I hope you enjoyed the video this week and maybe can share a little bit in my love for olive oil as well. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week with another video.